giving us your time, even Dhananjay ji, all of you, in fact, who have come here on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
There are no questions in the chat, but perhaps people have a question that they want to say out loud,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
we'd be really happy to answer. And if we don't have an answer, we certainly will do everything we can to find an answer and get back to you. Oh, great. Dhananjay.
Yes,
Hi,
please.
Julie and Madhvi.
Hi.
Hello.
Good afternoon and hats off to both of you for the consistent efforts which you are taking for the planet Earth. My question is the way the climate change agenda is being discussed on the you can say various platforms and particularly the platform, the veganism which we are talking about, the animal farming. So are these points, is this subject taken by the seriously? And if anyone is raising this concern and any work is being done by the or say forget about the if they are not taking it seriously, any country is prioritizing and doing any substantial work on this? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. Madhavi, Sanjeev, did you want to answer? I
No,
can.
Julie, you can say, and then I'll add to it.
Okay, so that is a very good question. And this is one of the reasons that we actually created this webinar. And we create other webinars as well for climate activists, because it does happen to be one of these things that is sort of like, we don't want to see, we don't want to see. People in most environmental circles, people don't want to talk about it because actually changing one's eating habits is extremely, there's a lot of polemic, it's very polarizing. People have a really, really hard time with it. It's just one of these things. It's without going into psychology or things like that, it's really, really difficult. So it is true that it has been until just very recently ignored by a lot of environmentalists. And it's true that it's something that we as a group, an environmental group, find very frustrating, because the data is there, the research is there, it's all there, and we just have to look at it and understand how we can actually make this difference. I just wanted to say, and I'll let Madhavi afterwards talk about that, because the other question you were talking about is, are there any countries who are actually starting to look at the environmental degradation of animal agriculture, on a greater scale? Now, what's happening is that I think it actually occurred. There is a group in England called Humane Being. That is the name of it's an association. And they have just sued the government of Great Britain. I think it's Great Britain. I don't think it's England. I think it's Great Britain. They have sued the government for not taking animal agriculture, the seriousness and the devastation of animal agriculture, intensive farming especially, into account in addressing the climate crisis. Now, what's happening in England, and I must say, I happen to live in France, and I'm very jealous of what's going on in England, because they are taking huge strides toward getting rid of, 80% or 85% of most British people believe that we have to end intensive animal agriculture. They're not saying animal agriculture, but intensive animal agriculture, which is 85% or 90% of what we eat in the world, even more in most places. So people are starting to understand that. But there's this lag, of course, between what people want, what people believe, what people feel, and what the governments are actually doing and the policy they're implementing. And a lot of it has to do with money and lobbies. That's just the bottom line, right? The agro industry is a huge, gigantic, very, very rich. It's huger, much bigger than the fossil fuel industries. And they pull the strings. So with that, I'll have Madhavi.
Yeah, and there is significant, if I'm right, Julie, correct me, there is a significant transition in the Western countries like the US and UK when it comes to consumption of, plant-based foods. because the rising awareness. In fact, in Germany, the government um, had stopped serving animal-based foods in one of the government sections. I don't recollect it now, but if you want to know about any action being taken by any government in the country, then Germany has taken. And yeah, and there must be a few, even in New Zealand, in the schools, they've started teaching how animal agriculture is having an impact on the environment, and teaching the children, to go for more plant-based foods. So these movements have started happening. And having said that, I think it's very important for us to, uh, being a country like India, which is really vulnerable to climate change, we need to see all the facts clearly before us. And knowing the basic fact that we have the largest cattle population in the world, or even the livestock population is the highest in the world, we have to question ourselves as to how are we really managing this. I mean, how don't we have any, isn't there any impact of these animals which we are rearing in our country, where we have the largest hungry population as well? So I think more than looking at what is happening outside, we need to know our facts properly. I mean, we are so concerned about environment. We really are in the situation where we need to do everything possible to save ourselves. And if we are not willing to look at all the facts, we can't reach our objective. So it's very important. We need to take everything into calculation when we are seeking an answer, a solution to the crisis is which are the biggest in front of us. And actually, it is the simplest solution before us. So we can change this picture very soon if we want to. You know.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
for
question also. Yeah.
yeah,
you.
very important.
Anyone else? Anything else? Any debates? Anyone who's
Anybody wants to speak in Marathi also, we are fine. I mean, we
please.
want to do webinars in Marathi also. We decided we'll do this in English because we thought there are many people who speak English also in the FFF group. But anybody wants to
Hi,
speak?
hello, this is Yogesh Shastri.
Yes,
Hi,
Yogesh.
Yogesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am sorry I joined late because where I am on this site, there is a lot of issues regarding range problems.
Okay, no problem.
So I basically missed most of the presentation. However, I feel that since we are in this movement, what do you both think that we can do to speed up the results that we need uh, to save the earth, the vegan movement? So where do you think that we can speed up or push up a little more?
We have to be vocal about the solution which we
Mm.
just discussed.
Mhm.
And we have to make the change ourselves, and that will empower us more to be vocal about the move, because we understand then what a significant step we're taking and what a significant contribution we're making. And with the kind of situation we are in, we need to take the most significant step. I mean, there is no other answer before us. And incidentally, which is the simplest. I mean, I will always want to assert on the fact that it's the simplest. That's why we should even more cash on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons that we did this, and of course we can do it again, Yogesh, we'd be very, very happy to, do this as frequently as people would like it, because what's really important is to understand that knowing the facts is actually quite empowering. This is
Yeah,
the reason that we do webinars in the first place, is to give
yeah,
people facts they know, because we hear everything, right? Now, most of us are connected to internet and we can hear everything, and it's contrary, and it's, mirror image and everything like that. Everything is available, but trying to sort out, the facts from an agenda, right? An agenda that's just motivated by either personal opinion or desire or something like that is very, very different. So we believe that, I think this is quite, a two-sided thing. One is to empower ourselves individually with the facts, and afterwards to, as Madhavi said so well, is to actually live, to become an example for other people, because there is something about living your ideals that is, again, very, very empowering. And then to spread the message. You know, I mean, really a broken record all the time, and I always talk about activism. And I think it's really important. It's always been important, but it's never been as important as today to become active. Now, activism is really tailor-made to the person. Some people are much better on social media. Some people are really good doing street activism. Some people are there's just so many different ways to become active, but it is meaning that you are not passive. That's all it means. You're not passive in watching this happen, but you're actually active in the solution and to help others, you know, become informed and they themselves. So, you know, the kind of the snowball effect.
Yeah, regarding the facts and the statistics, yes, you people can really point them out very, very forcefully, I believe, and which is required. So such webinars also on a periodic time is required, say every month or every 15 days. You know, the ironical thing in India is that we call cow a mother. And it is a really horrible situation if you go to the cow sheds and all those places, you know, the calves are suffering. And I personally have stopped using milk for like many years now because it is not part of the human diet also. So I'm following another diet system which is plant based. So yeah, pointing out statistics, I believe, is a very important thing because the meat that is exported, the beef that is exported from India, I think India is one of the top exporters of beef. So that is a very sad picture. But thanks to both of you for organizing this. Thank you.
But Yogesh ji, we would like
Yeah.
this to be taken up by you as well. I mean, we have become the, what do you say? They all know now. Julia and Madhvi, they know only to talk about animal agriculture. It's the known
The
fact.
thorn in
We
the
want
side.
more and more people to speak up because it is a fact, it's the truth. And we want more people to assert the truth because then that gets more validation.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
can't blame
there's
everywhere.
validation is, yeah, I mean,
Can't blame,
that's,
can't
yeah,
blame.
yeah.
And really, Yogesh, if you want to, I mean, to share this message and to get people from the FFF group, you know, more
Yeah.
people to know this, because again, I mean, afterwards, people get the information. What they do with it is their business, but at least they
Yeah.
have their information, right? Which is,
Yes.
I think, such an important thing. And
No,
again,
and many times it opens the eyes to what actually is the picture. You know, even I wasn't aware till the time I saw that slide in which the numbers were quoted, the beef export numbers, the cows and buffaloes that are slaughtered for the beef export.
yeah.
That slide really opened my eyes. You know, so I think we need to present this picture in front of the public. You know, at least I believe that out of 100, at least 10 or 20 people will take this seriously and move away from such things.
That would be great. That would be a
I
really
was,
20 out of
I,
100. I'll take it any day.
No, really, really, because you know,
you,
this is a very sad thing because I have myself witnessed, you know, when I used to buy milk, I used to go directly to the cow shed and we call it the desi, the local cows, you know, they are very special over here. And the horrible thing, you know, the calf you would be tied to the other end of the cow shed and they would just bring it for a second or two. It would just touch the mother's and it would just
Udder.
have a sip or something, and then they would pull it off. Okay. So that's how they you do it. So very torturing actually is.
It's very sad, but you
And I
were
think,
open to seeing that. I'm sorry, Sanjeev. Excuse me.
yeah, no, I think one thing which maybe we didn't highlight is, by going more towards going away from animal-based food products. See, I think we need to understand that you'll end up freeing a lot of land. One is by reducing the animals. Another is by reducing the food which is going to be produced for animals. And this precious land, we can start growing forests and other food for humans. So it will lead to a lot of afforestation and carbon sequestration. I think Dhananjay is already involved in some of these initiatives like Devrai, and also it gives us a super chance for doing something really good. It's not just that you stop eating and that's the end of it. It opens a whole lot of things to be done. Good things to be done. So once you promote farmers who are growing naturally growing food, plant foods, and all that. Again, it helps in the soil regeneration. So a whole lot of benefits are coming out of it. It is not just we are eating plant-based foods and that's the end of it. It just opens up a whole lot of things. That's the beauty of it. It's just not stopping eating something, but actually leading to doing something much more. I think that's where we should get the connect for when we speak from the environment. When Julie touched upon it, the carbon footprint and all, it actually helps us make a lot of carbon negative by doing all of these things. So that's why I think you need to highlight these also to the other groups. And
I think you're right. I'm going to write it in my notes. I
So
didn't say
Yogesh ji, we were really expecting many more people from the Fridays for Future group to join us. They are so active on the group and so many posts and this and that. I mean, you see, you feel they're really motivated.
Yeah.
But then I really don't understand, where does the motivation go when you need to really learn about the problem? Because unless we know the entire problem, we can't solve it. So
Yes,
can we,
I
we
think,
don't mind doing this again for Fridays for Future group. We can do it.
Yes, we can actually, if we can have a recording or something which you can post on your website, so people at their convenient times can go and have a look over there
We
if
will
they
be doing
miss
that.
such webinars. So that will be nice also, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
we'll
this will
doing
be,
that.
this was recorded, and so it will definitely be, we'll put it up for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's always really great also, I mean, because of course we want, whoever wants, they can watch and they can rewatch it and things like that. What we like about webinars is that people can ask their questions afterwards. And it's really, really important because people do have so many questions because they've been fed misinformation for so long. And so it's important that people are able to just address this, not because we don't want to point fingers, but we want to be able to clarify. We want people to understand, and we will very happy, as Madhavi has said, to give any type of resources and things like that, because what we're saying is not just we didn't pull them out of our hats, right? We really, this is data that we're
Yeah.
talking about.
One more aspect, that I think we should think regarding is the, if people shift from the milk based, then there are going to be a lot of job losses and a whole big industry is going to take a hit.
Mhm.
So, economic side of that is also to be, I mean, if we only keep on saying that this is the problem, but then if we can find a solution from somewhere, like there are so many NGOs working in the economic field also. So, if we can rack our head brain somewhere in that what kind of solution, supposing just if we look at one aspect, and that is the job losses and that is the economic hit, because the dairy industry is huge in India. Every single farmer has apart from his land holdings and agriculture, they are into the milk business.
Right.
So if we can really think of an alternative to give to them.
Yeah, we've spoken of this in other webinars before. This one was really just about the problem. It wasn't necessarily about, because there's so much to be said about it. You're absolutely right. And this is something that everybody, I mean, here in France, in Europe, we talk about all the job losses if people stop eating, all of the people who are raising animals and all the people who work in, nobody talks about, for example, the people who work in the slaughterhouses when they talk of job losses. You notice that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such a horrible job. So people don't want to think about that. No, they're only talking about the person who has his few dairy cows or his, in France, people don't have a few, it's going to be big. But what you're saying is very, very true. What people don't understand is that apart from the huge, huge, huge dairy farms, most of the farmers are not making any money through dairy farming. It costs them more money. We've been working with farmers, and the cost, it's just, they're not able to sustain it. It's unsustainable economically. But they're put into this mindset because of subsidies and things like that, and because it's being pushed, and because who was telling us in Tamil Nadu now? Priti, yeah, she was telling us the other day at one of our collaborators, is that in Tamil Nadu now, they're actually gifting people a dairy cow, and they have to go through like a training session or something like that, and they're gifting a dairy cow to people, you know. So it absolutely, and they're giving them, I think, something like 50,000 rupees or something
Yeah.
like that. But what they're not talking about is the long term. A dairy cow, she will live for 20 years or 25 years if you decide to keep her, right? But they don't. They're not talking about the fact that when she's 3 or 4 or 5 years old, she'll be sent to slaughter. And they're not talking about the artificial insemination that's going to produce a calf every year. And that calf, if it's a male, will go to slaughter. And they're not talking about everything else. And these are not just moral issues, but they're economic issues. So what they're not talking about is that most of the smaller dairy farmers, they make money when they sell a cow or a calf to slaughter, but they're not making money through the milk. It costs them more money than they're actually losing. But this is a whole, I don't want to say it's a conspiracy because that is not the whole thing. It's a whole mindset, you know, with this cow obsession and the dairy obsession that is very specific to India, really. And one of the reasons that Jiva Bhavana exists is because we really do want to focus in on what's going on in India, the specificities, and not just the specificities in terms of land use, in terms of hunger, but also the more psychological specificities of our relationship with cow and with dairy, you know. But what you're saying is so true and so important, is to address the economic issues. One thing that Sanjeev has always said, Sanjeev, do you want to say it? I love what you always
Yeah,
talk
I think
about.
here too, we would like, we would like to hear from others for solutions. But if you look closely, you know, there are ready-made solutions when we say go for plant-based foods. Again, like I said earlier, there's a chance to, you know, grow much more plant-based foods and nutritious. You need to know that there is a nutritional deficiency in India for the simple reason that in a lot of communities and regions are not getting nutritional food, whether it, mainly plant-based food. So you start growing these plant-based foods, and then there is a whole lot of processing which can be done for this and reaching out. So there's a big industry waiting out there. I don't think there's going to be a big job loss. You know, if you closely look, I don't think there are any rich dairy farmers. We don't hear of rich dairy farmers other than the Amul and companies. So if we shift them to plant-based food processing, it is there. I mean, it has to be just worked out. So the alternative economy can be, put in place. Of course, it requires a whole lot of regulations and whatever subsidies you're giving to dairy, you start giving subsidies to natural farming and products coming out of there and growing these foods and maybe even forest foods. You know, there's a whole lot of economy if you just take a closer look at it. It's really not that bad what it looks like, you know. And whatever we say when we say job loss, it's always going to be there. Whether okay, tomorrow you shut down the whatever the hydroelectric or any other power generation companies, where are these people going to go? Where are the people going to go when you stop producing cars? So job loss is going to be there in a lot of such fields where, you know, environment is getting damaged. But in this, luckily, it's not going to be that harmful, or it's not going to be that drastic as what it looks like. It's just a mindset change again. Just like a mindset change of eating, it requires a mindset change of what is going to get produced and what is going to get processed and reaching out. It's going to be a lot of more nutritious food. That's how I look at it. I mean, that's why Jiva Bhavana, I know, is looking at solutions. You know, growing the foods and making sure it is available to the country. And we are looking at job losses of beef exports. Would you want job losses at beef exports and having job incomes growing plants? That's a choice we have to make.
Mm,
So it's actually positive if you look at it. There's a lot of positive things,
totally.
not all
Yeah.
negative.
Yeah. Because really, when it comes down to it, you know, most people are not even getting by with this, right? There are some people who are getting really rich. It's always the same people who are getting really rich, and they're the ones who are
Exactly.
controlling it. And they're the export companies, and they're the slaughterhouse, you know, not the workers, of course, but the owners. They're the ones who are making money. But the person on the ground is not making money at all.
Yeah.
And so something else I like to say very often is, for me, it's like again, it's sort of an imperial colonial mindset, because what we do often with these animals is, I think, I'm not sure if it was you, Yogesh, or Dhananjay, who was talking about the fact that India is one of the top exporters of beef in the world. It was India until maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, and now it's second to Brazil. But that's a very, very, very sorry, statistic. Nobody gets any happiness knowing about that. But all of these animals, they have eaten the biotop in India. They have had the water in India. Then they are exported to the other, side of the world, where basically people on the other side of the world are eating the biotop, the depletion of resources in India. They're eating it in the other side of the world, or in the Gulf, or where they happen to be. So there's something completely, it's really this mindset, as Sanjeev said, it's this mindset. And we're taught to, it's like normalizing these things that are totally, totally not normal. They shouldn't be normal, right? But we've normalized them to such an extent that people are going to use this economic thing without knowing that most people who have dairy cows, if they have just 3 or 4 or 2 or 1, they're not making any money by it. They're just not. So yeah, it's a big hurdle, but we are on it. And anyone who's here today, and anyone who who is interested in this subject, of course, one of the things that we would love you to do is to be informed and to talk about this with other people. But if you want to do any type of work with us, to collaborate with us, to become more involved in Jiva Bhavana and the different types of projects that we're working on, because we are working on lots of things. We're trying to do many, many fronts at the same time. We would love to have people. We need people, who are engaged, who have ideas, who have imagination, who can think of different solutions, different ways of implementing the solutions. We'd love to have you work with us, for sure.
Yeah, sure. One other aspect I would like to point out is that, there is a big movement regarding the afforestation. There is a large movement which is you go and plant trees, you create forest. But one of the biggest threats to planting trees, because I've been working in that field, and out of 2, one is called cattle grazing. And all the cows are they in the villages, they are just left around for roaming around. They go on the hills and they destroy the plants and the
Everything.
trees, saplings. Apart from that, it is the grass burning that is the second threat. So if we can also join together with any government agencies regarding this aspect, that the cattle is one of the threats to afforestation. It is a major threat. And just like you pointed out, I'm really very surprised. How can, just because they are keeping 4 or 5 cows and each cow is giving only half a liter or sometimes even no milk, and there is no economics on there. And I don't know, because they simply, they leave them open. They go around the whole grasslands and they destroy everything and come back. So there is no logic and there is no finance and there is no economics to it. But at the same time, they are the destruction that they are causing in the fields. So that I think we can also tie up with the government agencies and point it out to them that there were small examples where these cows, fodder was provided to these cows by the NGOs who were planting trees in those villages, because they requested, okay, don't leave them open, keep them tied up, and we will give you the fodder. But that is a very costly affair, because fodder is costly nowadays in India. So,
and the fodder is grown someplace. And when we're growing
yes,
fodder for animals, we're not growing food for us, for humans.
yeah.
Also.
So what I want to tell you is that we have tried to work around this problem, but it is not going away. So like you said, the economics aspect, and like Sanjeev ji also said that the shift to plant-based, give them some kind of alternative. So I think we can work on 3, 4 aspects and go in for a solution at the same time. Like tying up with afforestation agencies, people who are going in for plantations, like even Pani Foundation is going in for that in Maharashtra on a big scale now. So I think we can speak to them also regarding this problem. Yes, Madhavi?
Yeah, like when you were talking about, tying up with government agencies to do this, well, that can be one of the ways, but we have to figure out our strategies with priority. And the best way would be to make the system obsolete by reducing or stopping the consumption of milk or animal-based products, because we are really at the mercy of the government officials when we have to do anything with them. I think we all have experienced that. And yeah, working with Pani Foundation and all that, I mean, as an organization, we have found our principles more aligned with Devrai Foundation, foundations like these. So we are working with them. If Pani Foundation also is very much aligned with our principles, we would happily agree, want to work with them, and we would like to speak to them about our work. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because Pani Foundation from this year, I believe they are coming in a large scale in tree plantation also.
Mhm.
And this is one of the major aspects, or threats rather, this cattle grazing. So wetland, grassland, and so Pani Foundation just a few days back when Amir Khan and Chief Minister of Maharashtra, they held that program, So Amir Khan focused on a holistic development of the village. And one aspect, yes, of course, the requirement of consumption, the consumption has to go down. That is one aspect. So we
Very
can work on all 3-4 angles, at the same time, because every single thread is required, I believe. We are in such kind of an emergency.
The thing is, we urgently need to save the forests we have right now. And that can be done by reducing the consumption of animal-based foods, because they're right away destroying. I mean, Julie explained how at the rate we are clearing up the forests. So that has to happen on the war footing, and then collaborating with these organizations. Yes, afforestation, definitely. Yeah.
See, what you're talking about, I think, is something that we all agree on here. And, is this idea of trying to find a holistic look at all of these types of things. We were talking the other day together how there's this new, I don't know, some research that said if you feed seaweed to cows, they produce 80% less methane, right?
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness, now we can feed seaweed to cows and we can still keep on eating the cows and their milk and everything like that, and we have less methane. Instead of just saying, why don't we just stop it? Let's just stop using cows, eat the seaweed ourselves, because seaweed, if it's not completely filled with mercury, because of the way we've been completely destroying our oceans, but seaweed is such a nutrition thing. We get rid of the problem at the same time. It's the same thing. I mean, it's wonderful, of course, to talk about afforestation and in a certain way, it's logical that you're going to say, okay, let's bring fodder this way. The cows are not going to graze. They're not talking about the goats, however, which of course is a big problem, because goats, most of the, they're really been destroying the world also. I love these animals. It has nothing to do with the animals themselves. It has to do with, the way that we've domesticated them and what we're actually, using them for. But instead of just saying, let's just stop using them, it gets rid of the whole problem in the first place, and then we can do our deforestation and our reforestation and everything like that, rather than trying to find this way of continuing to do something that is actually the root of the destruction, and trying to find a way of doing the destruction, but with less harm. But it's still destroying it, right? And you get into these really, really, crazy feedback loops because of, you're going to take the fodder in, and the fodder comes from someplace else. So you've got carbon emissions because of the transportation, and then people are going to, drive up the price of fodder, which means that, of course, if there's less food being produced for humans, the price of the human food is going to be higher because there's less supply. It's like and you say there's an easy solution. There's a really easy solution that can take care of everything at the same time. Oh no, don't touch our ghee.
And we didn't even talk about water. I mean, we just talked about land and food. Pani Foundation should know how much water is required for animal consumption and production. I mean, it is 10 times. So Pani Foundation should be very much aware. We would tie up with Pani Foundation if they really get this point that water is equally, or in fact, even more valuable resource in India, and how it is used, when it is used is so much essential.
Sanjeev, Madhuri, I do work with the Pani Foundation closely, and I know the top officials, including the CEO Satyajit Bhattal very well, and share good relations with them. So I will speak to Satyajit and Dr. Avinash Pol, and they know, fortunately, they are very rational in their thought process, and that's why they come up instead of, you can say, expanding their scope of water conservation.
Hmm.
This year, they came up with, we can say, minimizing their scope and focusing on the sustenance of the work whichever they have done. And for this, you can say Satyatya Spardha, they call it as.
Hmm.
So sustaining the work whichever they have done in last 3 to 4 years.
Hmm.
And for that, fortunately, Satyajit Bhatkal and their core team of around 16 members, they had come to Ecological Society.
Mhm.
They sat here in Pune
Mhm.
for 3 days. They took all the, you can say, all the inputs from Ketki, Mansi, Gurudas, and we all, I would say.
Mhm.
And then they designed this syllabus.
Mhm.
So I'm very much sure they will give a patientful listening and
Yeah.
ears to the inputs on this, you can say, the annual farming. I'm very much sure about it.
Correct.
So
I'll speak
if
to
you,
Satyajit
That will
and
be a great
definitely I'll
thing.
come back to you.
we could do a presentation for them if you wish, if these 16 people.
I think I'm
You know,
having
if
some,
Pani
you can say,
Foundation, you know,
evacuation.
if they really agree with our issue of veganism, they are smart people, you know, and the problem with cows in India is that it is a very sentimental and religious issue. So we need to tread very carefully. We can't step on people's toes over there. So yes, Pani Foundation, I think, can be a right uh, solution for that.
We'd be thrilled to speak with them.
Yeah.
We would just be absolutely, you know, it would be really fantastic, you know, to be able, because the work that they're doing is phenomenal.
Yes.
They really are. But again, as Sanjeev said, it's not, we're going to say, you know, you're forgetting this, you're not looking at this,
Mhm.
but it's true that there's missing links, right? And we're pretty diplomatic, not always, you know, amongst ourselves, but we're pretty diplomatic and everything. And we really want to, again, share this knowledge and have a dialogue with people, especially people who are doing such great work, you know, and who are very much doing it for the right reasons, right? Wanting to make sure that people who are the least able, right, who have the least resources to be able to have clean water, for example, to be able to have healthy lifestyles and things like that. So, you know, it's just a marvelous foundation. And it would be really great if they were able to, you know, have these little just bridges, right, that go from one to the other and have the bridge sort of pointed out, and that would be great. We'd love it. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So anything else with my friends? We have a few people who are still with us. I don't know if there are any questions or in Marathi or in English. And if not, we can say goodbye.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. And anyway, I think we are connected on a WhatsApp group, so please feel free to connect with me anytime. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you
Okay.
very
Wonderful
much.
inputs.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you and bye.
Yeah. Bye. Bye. Sanjeev and Julie will stay on.